This is a Pod Dealers Network podcast.
What is TWS podcast, episode, whatever, who cares at this point?
Bar. The rant of the vindicated. It's my podcast and I do what I want to.
People, listen.
Word, is it still live?
It's not working for me, Rich. We're going to keep going.
I know I changed my voice at work.
Bars on the radio.
What is TWS podcast?
Ready.
I feel like the
I'm staring at my watch and I'm feeling so new school.
Suicide attempts, how many tries to take?
They ain't ready.
You ought to see my baby.
Walking down the avenue. On and on with me. It's a beautiful sight to see.
You ought to hear my loving baby
Whisper in my ear. Tender words she knows I love to hear. Man, you ought to see her walk that walk. Hear my baby when she talks that talk. My baby just walks that walk and talks that talk for me. Ooh, here she come now. I know I said I wasn't going to sing anymore, but special circumstances, so I had to do it. Anyway, welcome to another episode of the What is TWS podcast. As always, I'm your boy J. Flam, representing the White Pants Society. And I must start by thanking you first and foremost for taking whatever time out of your day to come and chill with me, listen to my random ramblings, whatever it is I do here. You could be anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me, and I do greatly appreciate that. Man, I'm going to try to make it through this episode without getting too emotional, but I had to start with that. That is one of my favorite songs that I used to listen to with my Aunt Lay. She passed just last week, just a few days ago, really. And so today's episode is going to be dedicated to her. I did an episode a while back after one of my uncles passed about my uncles and their impact on my life. And when I did it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get around to doing an episode about my aunt, at some point. And it's just, you always think you have time, and that's not always the case. So I got to get better at that, at making sure people know what they mean to me while they're still here to hear it. But I still felt the need to, this is where I come to let things go and to I don't know, talk through stuff. So I wanted to talk about my aunt today. Feels like it's a little too late, but it still needs to happen regardless. But let's do the Chef Elise report. Everything's going to be honestly centered today, so just strap in. Anyway, Chef Elise report.
I'm Peppy.
You know I am. Yeah, man. A big regret, that I have is that I've been saying for the longest I was going to get Elise back home so she could, know my family and be familiar with them. She talks to my mother via video calls, pretty regularly, but they haven't seen each other in the flesh in several years. I think Elise might have been like 2 years old the last time she was home with me, and my aunt was there at the time, and she at least got to see her. My aunt got to see my daughter, but Elise doesn't remember her, and she she didn't get to experience being around her and to fully understand what she was to me, what she meant to her dad. So that's a big regret of mine. At least she had a soccer game this weekend, and I texted her mom when I got the news about my aunt, because I knew she was one of the few people I have around me that would understand like the impact of this for me. And I don't know if they actually had something planned or she was just doing it because she knew I probably didn't need to be alone. But her mother had double booked herself and had some church responsibilities on Saturday, so I went and picked Elise up for her game and took her to the game and got to hang out with her on Saturday, and it was good. I needed it. It's amazing how kids can do that for you. Kind of like I'm forced to be dad. I'm forced to be present and to be involved in whatever she's doing whenever I'm around her. So it gave me a minute to kind of get out of my head and just sitting around thinking about everything and spend some time with my daughter. But it also reminded me that I didn't get her home, and I didn't get give her the opportunity to get to know her great aunt and who she was to me. And that's definitely one of my big regrets. But Elise had a good game. She got to play a little bit of goalie. She got a save here and there. She had some good goal kicks. She still was, whenever the play was on the other side of the field, she was, turning around. She was digging in her nose for a while. And that was the most embarrassing part. Like, I want get out your nose. Like, I'm that dad. I'm like, get out your nose. That's me. I feel like I say that at least 6 times every time, we have a visit. Get out your nose. She got allergies and stuff, so I guess I understand. But yeah, we got to work on her attention span and things like that, and staying out of the nose. That's gross. But other than that, I wonder if that I wonder if anybody else was paying attention, and like if when she made a save with that same hand, if they was like, oh no, what I'm glad this is soccer and they hitting the ball with their feet, because don't nobody need to touch that now. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, Chef Elise, was a great distraction for me. I hate to call my kid a distraction, but she got me out of my head. And shouts to her mom for letting me have the time with her this weekend, because I definitely needed it. But that's all I got for the Chef Elise report.
Out of Peppy.
Yes, sir, I am, and proud to be. But yeah, so I started with that song. I try to tie the songs into whatever the episode is going to be. And Jackie Wilson was one of my aunt's favorite artists. She introduced me to Jackie Wilson when I was, elementary school age. And that's one of my favorite Jackie Wilson joints, Talk That Talk. And man, I titled the episode after another Jackie Wilson song from that same album, Lonely Teardrops. But yeah, she, as far as me and like music and like my introduction to music and shaping the kind of music I listen to and the artists I listen to, my aunt had a big part in that. I went back and forth between whether or not to play some Jackie Wilson or some Temptations, because the Temptations were really her favorite group. And I decided to go with what was my favorite song. I wanted to play My Girl. I thought about it for a little bit, because I know that would have probably, been her favorite. But I mean, I wanted to spend this time on this episode, like remembering, my fond memories of the time I spent with my aunt. And so that one resonates with me, And so, yeah, man, I was a little kid, like listening to Jackie Wilson was I'm pretty sure dead and gone by the time I was listening to the thing. But like that's what I was into from all the time, hanging out with my aunt. I remember taking a road trip. I forget where we were going, but I was with my aunt and her 2 daughters, and one of her daughters is my godmother, and I was with her and her husband, and we were driving somewhere. It was a road trip. We were driving to wherever we were going, and I had my little Walkman, and back then I really had like 2 cassettes. I had my aunt's Jackie Wilson tape, and then I had a single, a James Brown single, I think, Living in America. I forget what was on the other side. I probably played Living in America like 300 times during that road trip, but that was my shit. Sorry, I'm going to try to keep it clean from the rest of this. But I remember, my godmother, her daughter, like trying to, they were talking to me, this is how old I am. They was talking to me about MC Hammer, because he was like what was in at the time. And I think they were trying to like get me, either they had the MC Hammer in the car and they was like trying to get me, hyped up for that. And I was like, nah, I got my James Brown and my Jackie Wilson. That's what I'm into. Like, y'all can keep all of that. no diss. But yeah, like she really had that kind of influence on me, and the music I listen to. And anybody that knows me knows that music is a big part of my life. So anybody that sparked that interest definitely, must have meant something to me. But as I thought about it, when I was sitting and thinking about like my aunt and who she was to me, it's crazy because it dawned on me, and I never got to say this to her, and I hope that she knew. But like when I was growing up, when I was a little kid, I was short, short kid, chubby face. I was probably like a teacher's pet. Teachers loved me, smart kid, so I wasn't super popular is what I'm trying to say. Like I didn't really have a lot of friends. And my aunt was a 50, 60-year-old woman. She was she's 19 years older than my mother, and my mother was 33 when she had me. So, she was in her 50s when I was born. And by the time, we was, really hanging out, she was an older woman, but, like she was my best friend. Like she really was like my best friend. We spent a lot of time together. She, I would get picked up after school on Fridays by either her or her husband, and they drive me out to West Virginia. That's where she lived when I was a kid. We head out to the mountains of West Virginia, Harper's Ferry. I'm talking about like the mountains, like no guardrails and sharp turns type mountains, like the really scary stuff. But it was always a fun ride heading out there. And again, I was a kid, and these were two, I don't want to call them old. They was old, right? They was old. They was two old people, but that's where I wanted to be. That's where I had a ton of fun. I spent weekends with my aunt. I spent summers with my aunt. Holidays. Road trips back and forth to South Carolina. Listening to music. We used to just take random trips to Pizza Hut back when Pizza Hut was a spot. Like this Pizza Hut y'all know today is a shell of what it used to be. Like Pizza Hut was damn near fine dining when I was a kid, and we used to go to Pizza Hut and get pizzas. We'd take them to go and eat them in the car, listening to Jackie Wilson. Those were really good times for me. And then you're being out there in West Virginia, Harper's Ferry. We would go. There's it's like a historical landmark. Like they got the whole like little town set up to how it was back in like Civil War times. Because in Harper's Ferry, there's John Brown's fort, and John Brown was a big abolitionist, during the Civil War, and he had a little insurrection with him and some freed slaves that was fighting against the South. I think they eventually got captured and most of them killed there, but they kept that fort the way it was, one of the only surviving buildings from that time period. And we used to go there. And for me, like that was almost like that was my like whatever the theme park is in Orlando. That's my like, the joint with the movies is that was my like Hogwarts or Diagon Alley or something like that. To me I was going back into this, like I didn't understand the historical significance of it at the time. So it was more like going back into this little like fantasy world where things were different. We just go and hike on the railroad tracks and all kinds of like that was stuff I looked forward to and that we did all the time, and things that I always remember. I was just on another person's show. I think I was on a Raw Sad show, All on the Table. And we was talking about like movies and things like that. And they were asking me like movies or something that would like get my black card revoked. And me and Anna used to watch Dirty Dancing. Like I was probably way too young to be watching Dirty Dancing, but we used to watch Dirty Dancing like all the time. That is one of my favorite movies. It did not help with me being popular in school because for a long period of those elementary school years, I wanted to be Patrick Swayze so damn bad. And nobody, you can't go to school singing, I had the time of my life. Like nobody else knew what I was talking about. But that was our movie. We watched that thing a million times, and I could watch it to this day, and just, it's a good movie. I still want to be Patrick Swayze. I still want somebody to jump off the stage and I catch him and nobody puts baby in the corner, all that good stuff. I like, love that movie. Love those times with my aunt. She's also the person that got me into sports. Mom was a big Redskin fan. Growing up, my dad wasn't in the house. My mom wasn't a big, sports fan. And it's crazy that like I talk to people now, like, you don't find dudes that are sports fans. And back then, the person that got me into sports, was my aunt. We would watch the football games, the Redskin games. They had a satellite dish. I remember watching the Dream Team in Barcelona. Like, we would stay up. I would be allowed to stay up down there and wait for the game to come on. They would catch it on the satellite dish, and I got to see all that and do all that, with my aunt. It was great times. But beyond all that, beyond the influence and the music and the Pizza Hut and the Patrick Swayze or whatever, she was really she was my safe space. She was. I knew I would be okay. Around my Aunt Lay. Like I said, yeah, my child, I didn't have a bad childhood, but yeah, I didn't fit in most places, and even sometimes, with my family. Like I think I talked on the show before about like Thanksgiving not being a great time for me. Like I don't necessarily enjoy Thanksgivings because those aren't great memories for me. I was a picky eater. And I was around, a lot of people. Most of my family was older. My mother was the youngest of 9, so all of the aunts and uncles were a lot older than her. And even like my first cousins, most of my first cousins were old enough to be my mom or my dad. And just being a kid around these people during a time like Thanksgiving, everybody's concerned that I'm not eating, and it was an issue, and you got the people that maybe want to try to force you to eat, or the people that like just a lot of pressure. And it wasn't a happy time. But I knew if my aunt was around, like just stay close to her. Like not only was she not gonna bother me about the food, and she was not gonna put me through all that. But I think at a certain point, people understood, don't do it. Don't go over there and try to push those buttons with him while he's next to her. Like she's not gonna allow it. Like she's not gonna let you badger him about this food thing. Like say your piece and keep it moving. But Aunt Lay's not gonna allow you to do that. So I was definitely under her a lot of those times. Because that was where I was the safest. Like I knew. She was one of those people that made me. I knew I was okay. I knew nothing was wrong with me. That I was. That I was accepted and that I was loved for who I was. And I'm not saying my rest of my family didn't love me, but my aunt had a way of showing it, that was different. Especially from what I was used to. My mom was a single mother. She was a single mother most of the time, working 2 jobs and maybe going to school. And I was not an easy kid to raise. And trust me, it's all getting paid back to me right now, because everything that I was as a kid, my daughter is too. I call my mom and apologize like every other day because I'm having to deal with this stuff now. But, my mom raised me to be, a free thinker. And that's a dangerous thing to do with a kid because, if you think freely, then you ain't listening to mom and dad either. So, I was super curious. I was taking things apart and, doing all kinds of unsanctioned experiments and shit that's just naturally gonna go wrong. I was a boy in a house with women, and again, like didn't really have a lot of friends. I'm playing football in the house, throwing stuff, breaking stuff, putting dents in the wall, that kind of thing. And so my mom didn't really have the opportunity to be like affectionate with me and tell me she was proud of me and stuff like that. And that was stuff that, that's my aunt could step in and do that and fill that void. And, and it would almost be weird because like I said, growing up, we were not an affectionate household. It would be a punishment to make me and my sister hug. We do the quick 1 finger tap on the shoulder, like, yeah, I hugged her. It's good. Like, it's over. And my aunt was coming in and she was always hugging and, and I love you. And, that, and it was weird, but it was needed. And it stuck with me. I tell you, when Elise was born and I first saw her and they put her on me to do the skin to skin time, and she became my sweet pea in that moment. But the first song I ever sung to her like a lullaby was I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. And that was my aunt's song. Like she sung that when she came through the door. Like she came through the door, I love you, a bushel and a peck. And just in the moment when I had this little girl on me, like that is the first thing, that came to mind. Shouts to my ex-wife. She even went and found the song. I think it's not Doris Day. I'm trying to think. Betty Davis. I don't know. But she found the original and she like learned all the verses to it. And we was singing in the house to my daughter. But that came from my aunt. But yeah, she was that safe space. I'd say the one time she wasn't, and I know it broke her heart to do it. But it's sort of a funny story. I tell it on my episode called Black Indiana Jones. But I told you I was not an easy kid to raise, and so me and my mom went at it constantly. And I remember, I don't even remember what I did, but it just got to the point where mom was like, "I'm done. I'm done with you. You're going to live with your father." And if you've ever seen Ali Sadiq has a comedy routine, a comedy special where he talks about like going to live with his dad. It's the same situation. Like his was voluntary, mine was not going to be voluntary, but the same situation. Like my mom, what I'm saying, quality person. She worked very hard. We lived in the suburbs. Like there was a certain standard of living that I was used to. My dad was like living in Section 8 housing and stuff. And that's where I was going. So I knew that, and I was like, hell no. So I called myself running away. I did a grand escape. I ran out the garage. They tried to close the garage door on me, and that's when I tried to do the little fake Indiana Jones, like slide under the garage door, not thinking that it's a sensor. So soon all I had to do was stick my foot out, and the door would have went back up. But I still like slid or whatever, and I made it under the door. And I don't know where I was going. I don't know where I called myself going. I think I was going to walk until, how little kids, you run away and you like, as soon as they realize I ran away, they're going to be so sorry for whatever it is they try to do that they're going to fix it. I think that's where my mindset was. But I was just walking, and my aunt happened to be at the house that night, and she got in her car and, drove around till she found me. And she found me, picked me up, and drove me back to the house, but said, "Hey, you can sleep in my back seat. Don't worry about it. Like, whatever." And then she went in the house and snitched her. Like she had to. She had to. She knew. What was she gonna do? Like just keep me in the back seat and like kidnap me to West Virginia, for the rest of my life? She had to. But I knew that it like broke her heart to do that. I think we talked about it like years after that. But it's cool. It's just a memory. But yeah, she was my best friend. She was my safe space, and I regret that I didn't remain as close to her as as I should have. Through a lot of those years where I was, going through what I was going through, and dealing with the alcoholism and stuff like that. Like I really disappeared, and I don't know what it must have been like for her to hear the news that I had, attempted suicide. And we never talked about it or anything like that because she wasn't like that. She wasn't going to, take me back through any of that. It was just, I'm so happy to see you. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're doing well. I'm so glad, that you got this little girl, and, and she loved getting pictures of Elise, and, getting text messages from my aunt was just hilarious to me because I know like that was not technology that she wanted to use. But I guess it runs in the family. We don't like being on the phone, but we'll text in a heartbeat. My aunt, so I would just text her pictures of Elise, and she hit me back with emojis. I didn't know she knew how to use emojis, so that was always funny to me. But yeah, I'm gonna miss her. I miss her right now. And I gotta go back home. I'm not sure how I'm gonna be able to handle all of that. Like I don't know that it's fully hit me at this point. I've had people pass before, and please believe me, I loved and cared about each one of them, and they all were losses. But this one is a big one for me. And it's, I say all this to say, like, she was a old, she was in her 90s. She lived a long life, and still, it's not like, it doesn't feel okay, and so to a certain extent, I knew it was, it was an eventuality. Like, these were things that were going to happen. If I lived long enough, I was going to live long enough to lose people I cared about. And still felt like I had time. Like, still felt like, I'm going to get Elise back there. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it didn't happen. And I've said here, I don't need a VR helmet. I don't know what I got that Oculus for. I haven't put that on in months. Like, that was a plane ticket. Like, it'd have been that simple. And it didn't happen. So if you have people in your life that mean something to you, that you care about, that care about you, just make sure they know. Just tell them. And I mean, it could be as simple as a text message. It could be a phone call. It could be a visit. But you don't want, someone to be gone and you not know if they knew, what they meant to you. And my aunt meant a lot to me. I said it didn't dawn on me until I started thinking about it. So I know I probably never said it to her, but she was really my best friend, and man, it's gonna be rough. But y'all, I thank you for everyone who commented or said something. I post things not necessarily for a reaction from people. Sometimes I just need to articulate things out loud. I need to say something out loud, and the internet feels like out loud. Not always do I know who to call, and no diss to anybody, because there's a lot of people who open themselves up to if I need to vent or if I need to talk or something like that, hit me up. And it was just I knew there weren't very many people around me who would really understand what this was for me. Like my ex-wife was one of those few people who I know she's heard me talk about my aunt. She's met my aunt and been around her. And so she would understand the impact, that this had on me. But it wasn't going to be the same. Talking to a lot of people, so I didn't take very many people up on that offer, if any. But I do appreciate you. But man, they definitely will be missed. And if you're not up on Jackie Wilson, I think most people know him from Higher and Higher. I didn't even know that was Jackie Wilson until the Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters 2. Like, I knew Walk That Walk. I knew Lonely Teardrops. There was a lot of other music, a lot of other songs. I know he had one. I ain't even gonna talk about it, but it was it sounded like some domestic violence. But I used to be listening to that shit when I'm sorry, I'm not. That's the last one. I promise. I used to be listening to that one when I was a kid and not understanding what I was listening to. But man, that's all I got. I made it through, and I'm proud of myself. If you made it through, you the real MVP. I appreciate you. Hopefully this has been somewhat entertaining. I don't know if that was the purpose, but I just wanted to celebrate my aunt and talk it through, and get some of this stuff out, say it out loud, because that helps me to just say things out loud. So anyway, with that being said, if you like what you heard, if you didn't like what you heard, understand that this was a special situation and go listen to some of my other episodes. If you did enjoy what you heard, and you can sense that you and I vibe, please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, repost, retweet, all that good stuff. It all goes a long way. I do want to say I appreciate everybody. I looked this week, and on Good Pods, I hit #1 in comedy and still holding down #1 in the personal journal space. Dramo, I know you on my heels, but we gonna fight to the death for this one. So I thank y'all. The needle is definitely moving. I'm seeing, the love and support for the show, and that means a lot to me. I think my aunt did hear the episode I did about my uncles, and she enjoyed that. You know, I would have loved, for her to be around and see where this is going and what it's going to be. But I know she's watching. I know she's paying attention. And with that being said, until we speak again, y'all be safe, be easy, be the light. And know this, if you know nothing else, tomorrow's not promised. Do it today. And I fucking love you. Holla.
Last call for alcohol. Yeah. If this is it, like if this is the last joint, if this is the last hurrah, it's the last call for alcohol, baby. I gotta say, whether you knew it or not, it's pretty much at the finest bar establishment, the finest spirits and libations y'all could have had, baby. You might realize it now, you might have realized it back then. You might realize it later.
Love.